Hello, I'm George Tricome, and I developed a music course called George's Path Through Improvisation. In this video, I'd like to share with you how my students and I look at and analyze John Coltrane's Giant Steps, and then how we approach it for improvisation. I'd like to begin by presenting three circles. The first one's the most basic diagram in music theory, the circle of fifths. C, G, D, A, E, B, F sharp, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and C. Or more precisely, the ascending circle of fifths, because C steps up 5 to get to G. C, D, E, F, G. And G steps up 5 to get to D. G, A, B, C, D. C, G, D, A, E, B will reset, F sharp, D flat, A flat, E flat, B flat, F, and C, the ascending circle of fifths. One of the reasons that the circle of fifths is a very instructive diagram is because it helps us understand the key system in music theory. Starting at the top with the key of C, we have no flats or sharps, but then as you move clockwise, the key of G has 1 sharp, the key of D 2 sharps, the key of A 3 sharps, and so on. Now if we start at the top of the circle of fifths and descend, C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, we find that the tones move counterclockwise on the circle of fifths in reverse letter name order. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat. Now this particular counterclockwise order is also very important, but looking at it counterclockwise feels like driving in reverse. So let's turn it around and look at it clockwise. C, F, B flat, E flat. Much better. Now if we start low on the piano and ascend using our new letter name order, C, F, B flat, E flat, we see that it now moves in fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We now have our second circle, the circle of ascending fourths. C, F, B flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, F sharp, B, E, A, D, G, C. This circle of ascending fourths is important because it illustrates much of the basic chord movement found in jazz standard progressions. The circle of ascending fourths also illustrates the very familiar 2-5-1 change, which is how tonal centers are established. You'll most often find them at the end of musical compositions doing their job, which is to establish its primary tonal center. Now let's create our third circle using intervals a half step smaller than a fourth, a circle of major thirds. C, E, G sharp, C, E, G sharp, C. Well, right away we see that it's a much smaller circle and contains only 3 tones, C, E, and G sharp. So here we have it, the circle of major thirds. Now let's play the circle 1/2 step lower. B, E flat, G, B, E flat, G, B. Next we're going to take the tones of this rotating major third circle and one at a time place them in the odd numbered measures of a 16 measure song format. B, E flat, G, B, E flat, G, Notice how this rotating circle of major thirds is at the core of giant steps. The circle of major thirds in reverse was also used to bridge the chords in measure 1 and measure 3. And again in measures 5 and 7. As mentioned before, moving forward 3 tones on the circle of fourths establishes a tonal center with 2, 5, 1. Moving forward 3 tones on the circle of major thirds, however, evades a tonal center. Much of the beauty and intrigue found in jazz standard progressions comes from well-placed tonal center shifts, which, with some good analysis, are manageable for improvisation. And most compositions point their way home to a primary tonal center, which is that final 2, 5, 1 progression. However, there are 2 main challenges with the giant steps progression. The first is that the rotating circle of major thirds at its core is shifting tonal centers at a quick, even 2-measure pace, making it next to impossible to manage. And the second is that the circle of major thirds has no 2, 5, 1. It can't point the way home to a primary tonal center because it can never give us that 2, 5, 1 finality. The giant steps progression does tease us, though, with those 5, 1 and 2, 5, 1 insertions. But all they do is have us running around in circles chasing those 3 phantom tonal centers, knowing full well that we'll never come home to rest on a primary tonal center. So then, what's the answer to gotcha, no primary tonal center? Well, what about, okay then, we'll just make everything a primary tonal center. From now on, all chords are 1 chords. And that's the way my students and I approach this and all jazz standards. We regard each chord and the scale that goes with it as its own tonal center. Let me show you. To begin with, jazz standard progressions primarily contain 3 types of chord-scale combinations: 7th chords and scales, minor 7th chords and scales, and major 7th chords and scales. By the way, the lessons in Part 2 of my course present an easy way to make a quick chord scale connection. Now let's listen to this short sample of a typical jazz standard chord progression. Each of these chords has a scale that goes with it, but we don't use the entire scale. Instead, we break it down into pockets: the 1, 2, 3 pocket, the 3, 4, 5 pocket, and the 5, 6, 7 pocket. Here's a sample of the 1, 2, 3 pocket moving with the chords of our progression. You can hear how the scale tones blend with the chords, but we need to make it more musical, so we'll first divide the progression into 2-measure pairings, and then apply one of our melodic 7-beat sequences to each pairing. Here's the first one, pattern A. 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. The 7-beat themes blend with the chords because they emphasize the odd-numbered tones found in the chords. 1, 3, 5, 7 in the chord, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3 in the theme. 1, 3, 5, 7 in the chord, 1, 2, 3 in the theme. 1, 3, 5, 7 in the chord, 1 in the theme. You may have noticed that the 2-measure pairings in our sample come in a variety of chordal rhythm combinations. With jazz standard progressions in 4/4 time, you'll find 4 basic types, which we call chord formats. The first one is a 4-beat chord followed by 2 2-beat chords, which we call a 4/2 chord format. The second type is a 4-beat chord followed by another 4-beat chord, which we call a 4/4 chord format. The third type, 2 2-beat chords followed by 1 4-beat chord, is called a 2/4 chord format. The last chord format, 2 2-beat chords followed by 2 2-beat chords, is called a 2/2 chord format, and it's what you'll find at the beginning of giant steps. Now let's apply the same thematic approach to the giant steps progression. Here's pattern A. Remember, this is only prep work. We're just learning to move with the chord changes. Actual improvisation comes later. Now here's pattern B, which is pattern A upside down. 3, 2, 1. Next, we'll create 7-beat phrases based on those 2 themes. So you can start by creating ideas based on 2 themes and build from there. Each scale pocket has 12 themes, and here's what they sound like when applied to the first 2-measure pairing. Remember, there are 3 scale pockets, so 12 themes per pocket gives us a total of 36 different themes. And the more themes you learn for progression, the bigger your creative vocabulary will be. So to sum it up, our practice routine for jazz standard improvisation comes down to these 3 steps. First, we learn to play as many themes as possible with our eyes closed because we want to be able to play them from the hear-feel part of the brain. Second, we use those themes to improvise ideas in 5, 7, 9, and 13 beat phrase lengths. Our goal in this step is to be able to create simple, expressive ideas that have a pleasing melodic contour and a distinct ending. Then, finally, after we're able to create phrases that are fluid and clear, we loosen up and improvise freely. So that's how we do it. My students seem to like it because it eliminates the need to search for tonal centers, and practicing the 7-beat themes teaches them to flow with the chord progression in single musical thoughts, and shows them how to put space in their solos. If you'd like to take a closer look at my course, I put together a sample packet that you can find by visiting my site at georgespath.com, clicking on Samples in the menu, selecting your instrument version, and then scrolling to page 0 where you'll find the sample packet video guide. Hope to see you there. Thank you.